Hey, what's up, my friends? Chad Calek here. I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is going to start a little bit different than other ones because this is actually going to be a two-part podcast. What you're about to hear is the live podcast at the Jefferson Hotel this weekend after the first night of investigating. We had about 30 attendees there. It was probably the best crowd of true investigators that we've ever had with us on an event. It was a mind-bending event that unfolded like a movie. But I want you to hear the podcast that we recorded with the audience so you can feel the energy and just, it'll walk you through everything that kind of happened on night one. And then tomorrow night, you're going to hear part two. And something occurred that is unlike anything I have experienced in my 25 years of doing this. Again, what unfolded was like a movie. I'm going to show you the footage. It is mind-bending. I can't wait till you see this and hear what happened. But in the meantime, let's jump right in to the podcast that I recorded after night one. Enjoy. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 148, where we are on location in what I learned is the fifth oldest city in Texas. We are at the Jefferson Hotel in Jefferson, Texas. I have about 30 of my good friends with me. This is the AGH Presents the Ghost of the Jefferson Hotel event. Night one is complete, and we had a pretty eventful night last night, and I'll kind of share some of my experiences and share with you how the night went for me and how it went in general, and we'll talk about what we captured. And then we're going to talk about the general. There's a theory in the paranormal that's existed for a long time that things hardly ever happen your first night, or they happen your second night. As somebody who's been fortunate enough to have about 600-700 investigations under my belt and do it all over the world, I could attest to what I think about that. And you might hear our guests at times chime in if I have any questions for them or if they have anything to add. But I wanted to do this for a long time. I love on-location podcasts, and this is something that I hope to do more in the future as well. The first thing I want to say about this place is everything that I had seen online was really cool. It looked very kind of antique-ish, but I was not prepared for what this hotel actually is. It's truly mind-blowing. It's like walking through, it's like a fun house. Would you guys say it's kind of like a fun house? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it feels kind of like a fun house. Yeah, all the hotel rooms, each room is themed. Like my room is the oddities room, and there's like a train room and a doll room, and they're just each themed. And there is an incredible amount of antiques and just unique stuff. It really could be a museum. It really, really could be. The owners, Jeremy and Pam, incredible people, and they purchased it, I think, 5 years ago, and they've just been working on it literally every day. And I was shocked by how many things are here that are antique-ish and really appear to be like one of a kind. So our first night when we got here, they kind of gave us the walkthrough of the place, and again, I was blown away by everything I saw. And oddly enough, for people that follow my history, without them knowing anything about my detailed history, they selected a room for me to be in, which you could probably guess what number it was, room 18. Which that's the first thing I saw when they dropped my bags. I was like, not surprised that happened. That's actually a good sign because usually I don't believe in coincidences. So usually when that number starts popping back into my life, usually it means something spooky is about to happen. The first night that I was here, I actually slept like a baby. The only thing that happened, and it was super, super creepy, is I was laying down. I was just in that you're almost asleep stage. And it sounded like, well, there's two ways I could describe it. I could say it sounded like a big duffel bag that was full was dragged across the floor. Or the other way I could describe it would be to say it sounded like a body bag was dragged across the floor. And it sounded more like that. But I clearly heard it. It was right next to me. I don't know the place. I don't know how sound bounces or anything like that. So I yelled for Bob and Sharon to stand next to me in a connected room. I thought maybe they moved something. They obviously didn't. And in which, right after that, I heard some garden variety settling, knocking sounds from the hallway. And there's so much stuff here, and the building is over 100 years old. So I could see that there would be a lot of natural settling sounds here, a lot, especially with the amount of stuff that's here. And I took a walk down the main hallway. It's probably 3:30 in the morning. And I totally forgot about this doll room, and I have such a fear of dolls. And I get all the way down, kind of doing my shaggy walk, kind of slowly dipping around and investigating everything. And I get down to the doll room, and there's like this 3-foot doll on roller skates that's just staring up at me. And then there's this other one that I forgot he told me its head moves. Like there's like a mechanical thing in it. Did anybody else see the head move? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I forgot he even told me that. So as I'm already geeked out from the body bag sound, I'm looking at this little, doll on roller skates looking up at me. I look down the road and the head looks up at me. I was like, oh, that's it. I'm done. Done for the night. I just went back to my room, shut it, locked the door, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not investigating any of this. It's too creepy. But the next day comes, and at our events, I always say at our events, to me, the most special thing about them, and I think one of the most special things that people discovered, through COVID, is the value of fellowship and friendship. It's such an important thing in life. We're meant to have friends and share our experiences, and I've been really blessed with. It's true. There's a type of person that comes to our events, and the group here is awesome. And as I met our new guests last night, and obviously we always have a high number of returning guests, which is awesome. The vibe was great right away. I could see everybody was really excited about the place, and there's a lot to be excited about. That was my friend, Kevin, the cop, who did not turn his phone off. No, it's Kevin's here, if you guys know. Earlier we did a podcast with him. He came all the way out from Omaha as well. So it's great to see people come from all over the place to get together. And last night was night number 1. Now, the theory states that on your first night at a place, as much as you are getting a vibe and a feeling for the location, if it is haunted and if there are spirits attached to the location, they are doing the same with you. And they're gauging what are your intentions. And as time goes by, like any natural relationship, there's a bond of trust that's built if they believe that you're not here to destroy anything, to hurt anyone, anything like that. Then activity will start to happen. And again, like I said, as somebody who's done so many investigations, that is a theory that I wholeheartedly believe in. I could tell you a story that really kind of defines this. One of the most active single investigations that I've ever been on took place in 2005 at the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Now, this is when we shot Paranormal, and we were the first documentary on the place. We were there before any of the shows were there. I mean, when I went into that place, I got the whole building 8 days for $500 because they were literally trying to not lose the building to the city. There was no gift shop. There was no T-shirts, nothing like that. There was toe tags and broken bottles of streptomycin. There was like the morgue, all the hospital equipment was in there. I mean, it was raw. And that place back then, I've been there several times since, and unfortunately, I hate the direction it's gone. But back then, it was genuinely one of the most terrifying visual places that I'd ever been to. And the first night that we went in there, we had spent, gosh, probably, I think the total of the night was 8 hours. And Tina Mattingly, who owns the place, she gave us a walkthrough and gave us all her history and her experiences. And back then, she really took her time to make sure that almost every single room we knew the history, or at least the history that she had uncovered about the place. And it was the weirdest feeling because I was visually terrified. Just the place was so scary, but nothing was happening. And she eventually left us alone, and it was me and my friend Adrian and Justin. And Justin was making fun of the place, and he was just such a hardened skeptic at that point, and he was making fun of me. And I had literally made the comment earlier that it would take a ghost to slap him in the face for him to believe. And what's really weird is at the end of the night, Tina came back to close the place up. And as we're leaving, we're on the 4th floor, and she's telling us, some more stories about the entrance to the place. And all of a sudden you hear, Justin go, "What the hell was that?" And, I look over, and he's got this terrified look on his face. And I'm like, "I don't know, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Something just slapped me." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Something just slapped me right in the head." And I know him. I've known him for 20 years, so at that time I obviously know he's dead serious. And it was weird because I had my camera on, Adrian had a camera on, he had a camera on. We filmed everything in that room at that moment but his head, which was so frustrating because, obviously I wanted to have it on. But we were able to basically determine and break it down to, through all the footage that we did film, we were able to break it down to either he's lying or this happened. And obviously I don't believe he was lying. And but that's all that happened that night. And part of the way that the show went is that we would go there and we would determine if we thought it was haunted or not first. And if it was, then I would bring back a bunch of my skeptical friends that were hardened skeptics. They were like, "Ghosts do not exist. I'm not scared of nothing. I'll do whatever." And I was like, let's see if these guys can make it through an actual investigation in Waverly Hills. It's a great premise, to really kind of gauge bravery and authenticity of the paranormal. So we bring 9 of my friends back, and I thought, this place is going to go off, and these kids are going to be just terrified when it does. And again, it was their first night there. Because Justin did get slapped, we felt like it is haunted. The first night there, we broke up in 2 different groups and spent 12 hours there, and nothing happened. And again, I was just going, man, why does it... I've been in so many haunted locations that do nothing to my fear meter, where I'm just not afraid. It just doesn't, for whatever reason, but that place was so visually menacing. The whole time I was in there, I was just terrified to go anywhere. Like, Justin makes fun of me because there was a time where we thought we heard these steps down this middle stairway. It ended up actually being a person that was with us that was walking on the stairs. But Justin and Joey quickly ran around the corner to see what it was and left me. I just happened to be looking the other direction when they took off, and I panicked and grabbed Joey's hand and made him hold my hand. And so their whole thing was just like, oh, the American ghost hunter has to have somebody hold his hand when he's ghost hunting. And it was just kind of this big joke we had for a long time. But I was that freaked out by the place. But the weird thing is, day 2 came with all of those kids. I felt it when I woke up. I got out of bed and I said, man, that place is going to go off like a paranormal bomb today. I can feel it. Before I said a word, I sit down. My friend Greg Moog, who's there, great guy, my Minneapolis people. Yeah, Greg's the singer of Black Flood Diesel, a very big band in Minneapolis. Greg looks at me and he says, last night felt kind of chill. And he goes, but I got a weird feeling right now. That's the air conditioning that just came on. I'll be able to compress it out of here for you. But he says, I have this really weird feeling about going there. And I go, why? What's the feeling? And he says, I don't want to go. And I said, well, why? You don't believe in ghosts? And he's like, well, I mean, I don't believe,
I don't believe, but it's like, no, yesterday you said you didn't believe no matter what, and now you're already geeked out, and we're not even there. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I do have a weird, scary feeling. Joey gets up that morning. He sits down, without even talking to Greg or me, he sits down with his bowl of Cheerios. He looks at me and he goes, I got a bad feeling about tonight. I just got a bad feeling about tonight. I'm like, all right, let's see, you know. So in the meantime, I'm talking to Justin and Adrian about it. And on our way over there, you can just, this anxiety is growing. What occurred once we landed over the next 12 hours, out of everywhere I've been, Chillingham Castle, Alcatraz, what occurred was the most mind-bending, consistent level of activity that I've ever seen. And it all started, we were on the second floor, and everybody was walking through, and there was this old piano, and there was, on top of this piano, there was a wooden doorstop. And the wooden doorstop, and it was caught on film, just went ripping across the room, past everybody. 2 people saw it when it happened. Everybody else heard it, responded to it. After that happened, I mean, the list of things that happened that were documented are unbelievable. And we captured on thermal, full body apparitions walking right up to us, walking down the hallways where you can see it. We captured footsteps sprinting to us. Not like, oh, I kind of heard a footstep, but like someone rushing right at us. When I first got there, I met Charlie Mattingly, the owner, and I said, so you can be honest with me. I know this place is a business for you, but is it really haunted? And Charlie's like, yeah, listen, I'm not a paranormal guy at all. I don't even care about that side of it. If it pays the bills, great. And he goes, but I can tell you the place is haunted. I go, well, what's the craziest thing that you see? And he said, there's these red balls of light that just go shooting down the hallway. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, visually, I can see these red balls of light that shoot down the hallway. Oh, yeah. I ended up catching 7 or 8 photos of these things. I don't know what they are to this day. I've never seen it at any other place that I've been. And they would literally shoot through the walls like the walls weren't there. We had heard about Big Black, which is supposedly this 10 to 12 foot shadow man that has been seen by thousands of people there. But everybody has had a real hard time taking photos of Big Black. And the reason is shadow people are just hard to photograph anyways, because they're dark shadows and you're in the dark. So it's hard. You can see their jet blackness against the grayness of night when you have moonlight coming in, but it's hard to capture with the camera. I was able to capture an incredible photo of Big Black during the day at 3 p.m. up on the 4th floor looking down at us. But my point being is, by the time it was over, of those 9 non-believers that were certain that they didn't believe and they weren't scared and they would go anywhere and I'm a big baby and all this stuff, 6 of them had left, went back to the hotel, refused to come back to the place, and the other 3 that were there just stuck it out because they didn't want to take shit from all of us, giving them a hard time. And their interviews, the best thing about Paranormal Part 1 and 2, the best thing about it, to me, besides all the activity, is their interviews at the end. You can see that they are just, they're over it. They've had it. They're terrified. They just want to feel safe again. And I will never forget the contrast of that first night with all of them where not a thing happened. And then it was like when the floodgates were open, it was just open. And I've had this happen so many times. We had it happen at Chillingham Castle when we were doing A Blood Red Sky. The first night we were there, hardly anything happened. The second night, this is the whole team. The second night that we were there, it started everywhere. It started happening. My first scout visit there, the first night, nothing really happened. The second night, we heard children singing in the courtyard. I recorded it. No children were staying there. And I could go down the list of places where this has been the case. So the fact that things did happen last night, which I'm going to get to now here, my first night, I just had the personal experience I told you about, where I heard the dragging. But the first night of everybody that was here last night, I always really, like I said, I like the idea of really taking a night where part of the focus, besides investigating, is just getting to know people. So today we went back and checked. Everybody's, we had a plan of what we were going to do. We went back and checked the footage today, and I'll include this footage. Justin Ross had an amazing capture. I'm going to go back and try to recreate it tonight. But in his room, you can see he went to sleep, and you could see that he has his IR light set up, and one of his IR lights starts moving on its own. And you can't see the IR light; you can just see where it's shooting against the wall, and it's moving. So you can't see what's moving. But what's weird is, without me even knowing this morning, I've been talking about since I woke up at 4 a.m. exactly 4 a.m. last night. I got a double knock on my door, like exactly the same time that this was happening in his room. Which brings me to another theory, which is when paranormal things happen, they often happen in succession. That is, I am a firm believer of that. I would put money on that. And when I have 74 Minutes coming out, which is my kind of, I guess you'd call it, thesis documentary, where I'm releasing all of my favorite footage that I've captured over the years. And 80 to 90% of those clips, multiple things happen. It's like one thing will happen, and then right away a second and a third thing will happen. And that's exactly what occurred last night. But it was more than that. Because REM pods were going off and dancing. We had another guest who had a really intense experience that was kind of like sleep paralysis-ish that happened. That was really interesting. And we had a geoport going last night. Justin had a geoport going. And what's weird is we're sitting in a ballroom, and you could hear ambient music in the geoport, and we started asking if it's a violin. At one point, it sounded like it said violin, but it kept, literally you could hear the plucking of the strings to it. And we're right next to a train station with tracks, and what could clearly be defined and sounded like a train coming, the horn on the trains, like that was, you could clearly hear that through this geoport. So the amount of things that happened last night here was actually a lot. So, which leads me to kind of believe that tonight, according to the theory, could be something huge. For everybody that's here, how many of you have experienced the first night kind of silent, the second night things happen a lot? Have you guys experienced that a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, everyone's shaking their head yes right now. Do you guys think it's because of the familiarity thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you think that's the case?
Has to build up.
Has to build up and feel it. See, I'm not psychic in any capacity, so I have no idea what something's feeling or what it's not. But that's always made a ton of sense to me. Because I look at it the same way in my house. Like if my wife brought home a new friend that she met, even if I know Laura's her friend, there's going to be a minute whether I'm actively doing it or subconsciously, I'm going to be watching them, making sure things are cool, because you just don't know when new people enter in your life. And I think in a situation like this, 30 new people are entering someone's life, which a lot could happen, especially if they didn't want, people to be here. Tonight, what we're going to do is the episode. There's a promotional trailer I put out for this place where there's 3 really great captures where these 2 doors apparently open on their own. In this hallway, there's a great Shadow Man capture on the 2nd floor, and there's also a apparition image captured from what appears to be a flash on a phone, and we're going to go through and try to kind of recreate those in those locations to see what we can figure out. And besides that, we're just getting a game plan to kind of re-attack everything based upon what we experienced last night. Having said that, what do you guys think? Out of everywhere here, is there any specific area that kind of gives you the willies more than any other place? Because I have one that freaks me out. Go ahead. What is it? Disappointment room?
I want to do disappointment room tonight. So, Justin, totally there. If you'll do that. I just found it today, and I'm totally doing that. I'm totally doing that tonight.
Somebody did that.
Somebody do that?
Timely.
Oh, yeah, I think you probably do. All the lights just went off right now, so I think, yeah, I'm sure that's
I just
Jeremy.
found that today, so
Yeah.
I'm totally there. It's somebody else's game.
Yeah.
So, does anybody want to just
Kind of gives me the creeps.
room 19?
Yeah.
That's my spot too. That room, and it's not just where it's at or that evidence is there. There's something feng shui-ish about that. When you go in that room,
You can feel it.
something doesn't
Just
feel
feel
right.
the feeling.
Right. Something feels. You agree? Something feels off.
The room
Yeah.
that gets me the most is room 1, which is down bottom floor all the way to the back, but also is under room 19.
Under room 19.
Okay, when you walk up to it, it's just got this, and that's of course where the tunnel was at,
Yeah.
and it just seems like it's
Just
got,
that back hallway.
it's like it's untouched. I felt like last night we were doing so much, but none of us were really getting downstairs into that nook of the hotel.
Right.
Well, room 18 and 19 are rooms 1 and 2 on the bottom floor.
That's what I was
Right.
going to say.
They're directly below.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're hearing a bag dragging across the floor. We're hearing a bang. You've got things moving. 19's getting activity where they keep hearing a
Yeah.
bang in there. And what if that bang's coming from below?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be worth investigating rooms 1 and 2.
And
Yeah.
also the hallway, because I'm in room 4 and I feel energy and I have abilities, and I could always feel something following me around in
Yeah.
the hallway in between my room and room 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about these events too, is to see, like when you have feelings yourself, like when you're just one person walking around. It's so cool to see if your intuition matches up with how many other people. When we were at Chillingham Castle, Kieran O'Keefe, who I think is just a fantastic investigator, he did this thing with me where he said, "I want you to walk through Chillingham." He goes, "I'm going to give you the path to walk." And he goes, "And I want you to just tell me the areas that freak you out the most." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "Go do it." And I went through it alone. That's a creepy solo walkthrough, let me tell you. And I get, because we're like thousands of years of history, and this is, Chillingham Castle, if you don't know, this is King Edward Longshanks' castle. Longshank is the real king that captured William Wallace and had him quartered and all that stuff. So I get all the way through, and Kieran had written down on a piece of paper what he thought I would say. And there was 2 locations, and he nailed it. He nailed it. And one of them, the weirdest one, was in the main ballroom. It's just where everybody ate. And for some reason, in the main ballroom, right between the 2 tables, there were two long tables like this in there. I don't know what it is, but you would hit that spot, and the creep factor would go through the roof. And he was like, "I've been investigating this place forever." He's like, "Hundreds of people come through, and no matter what, they always stop at that spot and say there's something here, like right here." That stuff is fascinating to me. So I love when we do these events to see other people's take on what is going on, But yeah, tonight's going to be really cool. I'm really excited. When it comes to going to a place for the first time, should you expect more, or is that better than going to a place multiple times? I actually think there's pros and cons to both. I mean, I think what's exciting about going to a new place is that it's new, that you just don't know what to expect, and anything that you experience is going to be like a fresh memory. But what I do love, back to what we were talking about earlier, is when you go to a place multiple times and you start building up that familiarity, more and more things start happening. And I think it's debatable, whatever the hell Craig was dealing with over on Cockatoo Island, if it was paranormal. What I found unique about that is they had 2 years over there to interact with whatever this thing was. And it's still obviously largely up to debate what it is, but it wasn't human, I could tell you that. But I've always wondered if the reason, for example, like in my house in Persia, the amount of stuff we experienced there was, there will never be another place that I could go to that could even come close to what, it was just off the charts. But I lived there. I lived there round the clock, for 7 years. So it was almost like, a ghost hunter was basically being made without even knowing it at the time, because I was the last person to experience anything. And I was literally trying to capture stuff so I wouldn't lose my girlfriend, so my best friends wouldn't think I was nuts, so I wouldn't be kicked off the baseball team for being the weirdo. You know what I mean? All that stuff's weird. It's real in a small community. When you start labeled, he's a young psychopath, like nobody's going to want you around. So I was literally, first off, just trying to, prove that I wasn't crazy and also that my family wasn't crazy. But I think, going back over it, I think the only reason that level of...
the house knew you.
It knew me, right. And you had a relationship with it, and it kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And that's why it went insane. So I think that's the benefit of going back to places multiple times, which we do. We always make sure we have 6 events a year, and we always make sure typically that at least 4 of them, or 3 to 4 of them, are going to be new, but we always have ones that we do return to. There's an event coming up, which I don't know if tickets will even be available for it, because one of the great benefits of coming to our events is that you get offered deeply discounted VIP tickets to our next event before they're available to the public. And we have this event at Malvern Manor coming up. And every time I've been there, everybody's had an experience. Every time, that knock was a person, just so you guys know. And everybody's like looking. But the other reason I like going there too is because it's like a skip, hop, and a jump from my house in Persia. It's like only 20, 30 miles away from where I grew up. So I feel that same familiarity. And that place, every single time we've gone there, every person there has had an experience. And I think it's due to the familiarity of that area as well too, because it's not like spirits have walls, right? So it's areas that they exist in. But I think those are 2 things if you want to get out there and do ghost hunting. And what I love about our events too is you have people like myself, or probably half the room, if not 3/4 room, that have done a lot of ghost hunting for a long time, right down to people who this is their first experience as well. And it's totally set up where everybody's here to support everyone and just help everybody along in their journey. Because I think this is all a journey. Spiritual journeys are important things to be on. They're important in understanding a lot about yourself. And so if you're out there and you want to go, on this journey, whether you go to a new place or you keep going to a repeatable place, I think there's pros and cons. I think you're going to be okay either way. Having said that, guys, what do we think? Is tonight going to be good?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got that vibe, doesn't it?
Yep.
I can feel it right now. I felt it all day long when I got up too, so I'm super stoked about it. Well, listen, having said that, guys, thank you all once again for tuning in to the In a Crowded Room podcast. I love doing on-location episodes. This is something that I want to do more in the future. Also, we are now at 64 of you are supporting the show on Patreon, which is awesome. The goal is to get to 200 people so I could bring on an editor. So all I have to do is just record it. And that way we can do 6 new episodes a week released at 6 p.m. every night. To get that much support in just a week, I'm absolutely blown away. Thank you all for that. If you are interested in checking out the Patreon page, there's all kinds of exclusive stuff that I'm only releasing there for those that support the show. You choose what level of support that you want to commit. I think that's the best way to go about doing it. I believe that people that support me and this podcast and this journey, I believe they're going to do what they can do, and that's awesome. And if you can't support via Patreon, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. Just continue doing what you're doing, because the podcast is building every day, closing in on 11,600 people in a pretty short amount of time. It's incredible. So if you want to check out Patreon, the link is in the description box below. And I will be home tomorrow evening. More episodes coming this week, including a follow-up to the interview with Craig Powell, which was quite a barn burner. And yeah, there's a lot to be said and a lot to be concerned with in regard to what is going on with Mr. Powell and his family. But once again, thank you all for listening to the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back very soon with more. With 30 of my closest friends from Jefferson, Texas, signing off. All the best.
Awesome.
Thank
That's
you, guys.
cool.